Okay, so good evening.
Guten Abend.
Let's begin with prayer.
Lass uns mit Gebet anfangen.
Dear Heavenly Father,
Lieber himmlischer Vater,
I thank you for this study.
ich danke dir für dieses Studium jetzt.
Thank you for that you want us to make us understand the Bible.
Ich danke dir, dass du möchtest, dass wir die Bibel verstehen.
I want to ask you that you help us to be present with our minds.
Und hilf uns, im Verstand anwesend zu sein.
That we would really understand
Dass wir wahrlich verstehen mögen.
and help us also to be able to make the connections in our mind with the other studies that you've made.
Und hilft uns, die Verbindungen mit den anderen Studien, die wir gemacht haben, in unserem Verstand zu machen.
That everything will become clearer and clearer.
Dass alles klarer und klarer wird.
I want to ask you that you will bless Lawrence and help him to have the clear thoughts.
Ich möchte bitten, dass du Bruder Lorenz segnest und hilft ihm, klare Gedanken zu haben.
And also bless the translation, the equipment and the people that are watching the livestream.
Und bitte segne auch die Übersetzung, die Ausrüstung und all diejenigen, die über den Livestream zuschauen.
In Jesus' name.
In Jesu Namen. Amen.
Okay, so we want to continue our study on Revelation chapter 8.
So, wir wollen unser Studium über Offenbarung 8 fortsetzen.
And yesterday we came so far as to look at the first trumpet.
Und gestern sind wir so weit gekommen, dass wir den ersten Posaune angeschaut haben.
And today we want to look at these other three trumpets as well.
Heute wollen wir diese andere 3 Posaunen erst auch anschauen.
Okay, so let's go back to the notes I posted.
So, gehen wir zu den Notizen, die ich gepostet habe.
Same as yesterday.
So, dieselbe Notizen wie gestern.
And let's begin Revelation 8 verse 1.
Fangen wir in Offenbarung 8, Vers 1 an.
Just as a short recap again.
So, eine kurze Wiederholung.
It says, "And when he had opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven about the space of half an hour." So we can see, he opened the seventh seal right here. Yes?
So, wir können sehen, dass gerade hier der 7. Siegel geöffnet hat.
So the seventh seal is opened.
Der 7. Siegel ist eben offen.
And then it says, verse 2, "And I saw the 7 angels which stood before God, and to them were given 7 trumpets. But
Vers 2.
they didn't blow the trumpet here in this illustration.
Sie
Right?
haben Posaunen erhalten, aber in dieser Darstellung haben sie die Posaunen noch nicht gestoßen.
So they received the trumpets here,
Sie erhalten sie zwar hier,
but we saw they blow the trumpet here. Right?
aber wir haben gesehen, dass sie erst hier die Posaune stoßen.
Because these trumpets are the trumpets of judgment, right?
Weil diese Posaunen hier sind die Posaunen des Gerichts.
But there are other trumpets,
Aber es gibt nun andere Posaunen,
like for instance here Joel, or these prophets here.
wie zum Beispiel Joel, Ezekiel und diese Propheten hier.
They blow the trumpet to warn against
Sie
this trumpet, basically.
stoßen in die Posaune zwar hier, um vor diesen Posaunen zu warnen.
Okay, so then verse 3.
Vers 3.
And another angel came and stood at the altar having a golden censer, and there was given unto him much incense, that he should offer it with the prayers of all saints upon the golden altar, which was before the throne. And the smoke of the incense which came with the prayers of the saints ascended up before God out of the angel's hand. So we can see how Christ is interceding in this time.
So, wir können sehen, dass Christus in dieser Zeit Fürbittedienst leistet.
But then in verse 5,
Aber dann in Vers 5.
"And the angel took the censer and filled it with fire of the altar and cast it into the earth. And there were voices and thunderings and lightnings and an earthquake." So this brings us here to the end.
Das bringt uns hier zum Ende.
Now the hot coals from off the altar are cast into the earth,
Und
right?
jetzt die heißen Kohlen vom Altar her werden auf die Erde geworfen.
So, and if fire falls from heaven on the earth,
Und wenn Feuer von Himmel auf die Erde fiel,
this is what we could see also in the first trumpet illustrated, right?
das ist, was wir auch in den ersten Posaune dargestellt sehen konnten.
So, but it's coals of fire, right?
Aber es sind Feuerkohlen.
Because we studied this, that at the altar of incense, it was these coals of fire there,
Wir
right?
haben das studiert, dieser Weihrauchsaltar war dieser heiße oder Feuerkohl.
Let's go quickly in our Bibles to Isaiah 6.
Gehen wir zu Jesaja 6 in unserer Bibel.
Isaiah 6, verse 6.
Jesaja 6 und Vers 6.
It says, Then flew one of the seraphims unto me, having a live coal in his hand, which he had taken with the tongues from off the altar. So what did he take from off the altar?
So, was hat er vom Altar genommen?
Live coal, right?
So heiße Kohle.
Yes. So it's these hot coals from off the altar of incense that Christ is now throwing down here.
Das sind diese heiße Kohle vom Weihrauchsaltar genommen, die Christus hier niederwirft.
Okay. And then in Revelation 8, verse 6,
Und dann
the
in
very
Offenbarung
next verse.
8 und Vers 6 sind die Notizen.
And the seven angels which had the seven trumpets prepared themselves to sound. So right here when the probation closes, now the seven angels blow the trumpet, right?
Gerade hier, wo die Gnadentür zugeht, die 7 Engel posaunieren.
Okay, and then in verse 7 you have the first trumpet mentioned.
Und dann in Vers 7 ist der erste Posaune erwähnt.
It says, The first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood, and they were cast upon the earth, and the third part of trees was burnt up, and all green grass was burnt up. So we could see a third part was punished,
Also wir konnten sehen, dass ein dritter Teil bestraft würde.
and the third part was an illustration for Satan's kingdom, right?
Und dieser dritte Teil war eine Darstellung für Satans Königreich.
Because he deceived how many angels?
Denn er hat wie viele Engel verführt?
Third part, right?
Ein dritter Teil.
Okay. And anciently the trumpet powers were against which power?
Und in der Vergangenheit, in der Geschichte, die Posaunenmächten waren gegen welche Macht?
Satan's kingdom.
Okay, yes, but more specifically?
Also Satans Königreich, ja, aber genauer,
Yes, Rome,
es war
right?
gegen Rom,
King of the North.
König
Okay.
des Nordens.
So we can see therefore the third part in this illustration illustrates Rome or the northern army getting punished,
So,
right?
hier können wir sehen, dieser dritte Teil in dieser Darstellung stellt Rom oder eben den Nordarmee dar, wie sie bestraft werden.
Okay, and how are they punished?
Und wie werden sie
It says
bestraft?
fire and hail comes down from heaven,
Es sagt,
right?
Feuer und Hagel kommt vom Himmel herab.
Okay, and burns up the trees and the green grass.
Verzehrt die Bäume und alles grünes Gras.
Okay, and we saw the trees illustrate the nations,
Die Bäume, wie wir gesehen haben, stellt die Nation dar,
because in Ezekiel 31
weil in Hesekiel 31
you had this great tree,
es gab
right?
diese großen Baum
And all the other trees in Eden envied him.
und alle anderen Bäume in Eden waren neidisch auf ihn.
So all the other nations envied this Assyrian or Pharaoh.
So, alle anderen Nationen hatten den Assyrer oder eben Pharao beneidet.
Okay, and the grass, we read, all people are grass.
Und wir hatten gelesen über das Gras, es sagt in die Bibel, dass alle Menschen sind Gras.
So we can see here that in the first trumpet, it's a punishment on the nations and the individuals of Babylon. Okay.
Hier können wir sehen, dass diese ersten Posaune hier ist eine Bestrafung auf die Nation und die Einzelpersonen der Nation.
Yes, of Babylon.
Die Einzelpersonen von Babylon.
Okay, and it's through this fire coming down from heaven. Yes.
Und es ist eben durch diese Feuer, der von Himmel fiel.
And we saw it's illustrating the southern powers, right?
Und wir haben gesehen, das stellt die Südmächten dar.
So the southern powers, they punish the northern powers.
Und die Südmächten bestrafen den Nordmächten.
Okay, but where does the south come from?
Aber wo kommt den Süden her? Babylon.
Yes, it's internal. Okay,
Intern.
so it's this civil war and these uprisings that will bring all this calamity. Okay.
Stellt eben Bürgerkrieg dar, also diese Aufstände, die all diesen Calamity,
Katastrophen.
diese Katastrophen da herbeiführen werden.
Okay, and in 1798 the south rose up against the north. Yes?
1798, den Süden kam gegen den Norden
And
auf.
it says here on the chart,
Und
right?
das steht sogar auf die Karte.
Quotes Revelation 17.
Es zitiert Offenbarung 17.
And it says here in Revelation 17, they shall hate the whore and eat her flesh and burn her with fire.
Es sagt in Offenbarung 17, dass sie die Hure hassen werden. Sie werden ihren Fleisch essen und sie mit Feuer verbrennen.
Okay, so the south also punishes with fire, burning up Babylon. Okay.
Den Süden bestraft auch mit Feuer und verzehrt, verbrennt Babylon.
Okay. And then we also went to the seventh plague.
Dann sind wir auch zu den 7. Plage gegangen.
Why did we go there?
Und warum sind wir da gegangen?
Also Hail.
Yes, hail, right?
So wegen Hagel.
So the seventh plague is hail,
Die 7. Plage ist Hagel,
but the seventh plague in Egypt
aber die 7. Plage in Ägypten
was a parallel to the seventh plague, right?
war eine Parallel zu den 7. Plagen.
It was hail and
Es war
fire coming down from heaven,
Hagel und Feuer, die vom Himmel fiel.
together with
Mit,
thunderbolts, right?
mit Donner oder Blitzschläge.
Okay. And we saw it was evil angels being sent among them. Okay.
Wir haben gesehen, dass das böse Engel darstellte, die unter sie gebracht werden.
So it's this destroyer that is now permitted to destroy.
Es ist dieser Zerstörer, der hier erlaubt ist zu zerstören.
Because Egypt, who is Egypt in this illustration when it receives the plagues?
Weil Ägypten. Und wer ist Ägypten in dieser Darstellung, wenn es die Plagen erhält?
The north, right?
Das ist eben den Norden.
Yeah, it's the power that keeps God's people in bondage. Yes?
Es ist die Macht, die Gottes Volk in die Unterdrückung oder die Knechtschaft hält.
Because this white, she compares the black slaves
Weil Ellen White vergleicht diese schwarze Sklaven,
being in bondage to the Hebrews being in bondage to Pharaoh in Egypt. Right?
schwarze Sklaven, die in der Knechtschaft waren. Sie vergleicht sie mit den Israeliten, die in Ägypten unter Knechtschaft gehalten waren.
Pharaoh made a Sunday law, right?
Pharao hat ein Sonntagsgesetz erlassen.
Okay, so and then we saw historically this first trumpet was fulfilled by Alaric, the Goths.
In der
right?
Geschichte, in der Vergangenheit, wir haben gesehen, dass diese erste Posaune wurde erfüllt durch Alaric, also die Goten.
And what did he do with Rome?
Und was tat er mit Rom?
Burned up Rome.
Er
Okay,
hat Rom mit Feuer verbrannt.
so this was just another illustration how Rome first burns up Jerusalem,
Das ist nur eine weitere Darstellung von, wie Rom zuerst Jerusalem verbrennt,
but then Rome gets burnt up by the south.
aber dann Rom folglich von den Süden verbrannt wird.
Okay, but also we understand they also get burnt up by the radical Islam. Right?
Aber wir verstehen auch zusätzlich, dass sie auch von radikalen Islam verbrannt werden.
Okay, but radical Islam burns up both, right? The north and the south.
Radikalen Islam verbrennt beides, sowohl den Norden und den Süden.
Okay, so therefore so far we got yesterday evening.
So weit sind wir gestern Abend gekommen.
And now go please in your notes down to page number 4. At least in my notes is page 4.
So gehen wir in unsere Notizen zu Seite 4 hinab,
Under the heading the second trumpet.
unter den Überschrift, den zweiten Posaun.
So that would be then Revelation 8 verse 8.
Und das fängt mit Offenbarung 8 und Vers 8 an.
Everybody there?
Jeder da?
So it says, and the second angel sounded, and as it were a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea, and the third part of the sea became blood. And the third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died, and the third part of the ships were destroyed. Okay, so what is cast into the sea here?
So, was ist hier in den Meer geworfen?
A great mountain, right?
Einen großen Berg, der
Yes.
brennt.
Yes, a great mountain burning with fire.
Einen
Okay.
großen Berg, der mit Feuer verbrennt.
Okay, so let's go to Jeremiah 51.
So gehen wir zu Jeremia 51.
It says in beginning verse 24,
Fangen wir in Vers 24 an.
it says, and I will render unto Babylon and to all the inhabitants of Chaldea all their evil that they have done in Zion in your sight, saith the Lord. So when is the Lord punishing Babylon?
So, wann bestraft der Herr Babylon?
For all the things that
Yeah.
he did in Zion.
Once he destroyed Zion, now he gets punished, right?
Nachdem er Zion bestraft hat, wird er folglich bestraft.
Verse 25.
Vers 25.
Behold, I am against thee, O destroying mountain.
I'm against thee, O Gog.
Yes. Okay. Exactly. It says, I'm against thee, O Gog, right? In
Es sagt auch
Ezekiel
in
38.
Hesekiel 38, ich bin gegen dich, O Gog.
So I'm against thee, O destroying mountain, saith the Lord, which destroyest all the earth. And I will stretch out mine hand upon thee, and roll thee down from the rocks, and will make thee a burnt mountain. So what kind of mountain
Was
will
für,
this destroying mountain become?
was für ein Berg wird dieser zerstörende Berg werden?
Burnt one.
Yeah, a burnt one.
Because
Right?
they
Verbrannt.
eat flesh and burn with fire.
Yes.
So isst ihren Fleisch und verbrenne sie mit Feuer, sagt es.
Okay. Exactly, because we can see it's these barbarians that will burn up Babylon. Okay.
Wir können sehen, es sind diese Barbaren, die Babylon verbrennen werden.
Okay, because it said in the second trumpet, it was seen a great mountain burning with fire, being cast into the sea.
Es sagt in der zweiten Posaune, eine große Berg, der mit Feuer brannte, in den Meer geworfen
So
wird.
this great burning mountain we can see is Babylon. It's this burnt mountain. Right?
Dieser große brennende Berg ist Babylon.
So, but it's being cast in the sea. It says.
Aber es
Yes?
wird, wie hier gesagt, in den Meer geworfen.
So let's go to Revelation 18, verse 21.
Gehen wir zur Offenbarung 18, Vers 21.
And it says, And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone, and cast it into the sea, saying, Thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. So what happened with Babylon?
So, was geschah mit Babylon?
Just remember.
It's like a millstone, right?
Es ist wie ein Mühlenstein
And gets cast into the sea.
und wird ins Meer geworfen.
So it's this great burning mountain, right, being cast into the sea.
Dieser große brennende Berg, der ins Meer geworfen wird.
And then it shall be found no more at all.
Und es sagt, es wird denn nie wieder gefunden werden.
Okay. But Babylon is also likened unto Assyria, right?
Aber Babylon ist auch mit der Assyrer oder Assyrien verglichen.
And both are these great trees.
Beide sind diese große Baum.
But the Assyrian also is likened unto
Aber der Assyrer ist auch
Pharaoh.
mit
Right?
Pharao verglichen.
So Babylon is this millstone that is cast into the sea.
So, Babylon ist diesen Mühlenstein, der ins Meer geworfen wird.
And let's go also to Jeremiah 52, I think it is.
Gehen wir zu Jeremia 52 in unserer Bibel.
No, sorry, it's 51.
51 ist das.
Because the things that are written in the book of Revelation, they're taken from the Old Testament. Yes?
Weil die Dinge, die in die Offenbarung geschrieben sind, sind von dem Alten Testament entnommen.
So let's begin in verse 16.
Fangen wir in Vers 16 an.
60.
So Vers 60.
16.
60.
60.
16.
That's 60.
Okay.
He told me 60. I should say.
16 and 60.
60. Okay, so let's go to 60. So it says, So Jeremiah wrote in a book all the evil that should come upon Babylon, even all these words that are written against Babylon. So what is Jeremiah doing?
So was tut Jeremia?
Yes, he's writing the flying roll, right?
Er schreibt den fliegende Rolle.
It's those that write. Okay?
Sind diejenigen, die hier schreiben.
Verse 61.
Vers 61.
And Jeremiah said to Zechariah, When thou comest to Babylon and shalt see, and shalt read all these words, then shalt thou say, O Lord, thou hast spoken against this place to cut it off, that none shall remain in it, neither man nor beast, but that it shall be desolate forever. And it shall be, when thou hast made an end of reading this book, that thou shalt bind a stone to it and cast it into the midst of Euphrates. And thou shalt say, Thus shall Babylon sink, and shall not rise from the evil that I will bring upon her, and they shall be weary. Thus far are the words of Jeremiah. Okay, so this flying roll is a prediction about
So diese fliegende Rolle ist eine Vorhersage über
the destruction of Babylon.
die
Right?
Zerstörung Babylons.
And at the recent camp meeting,
Und bei dem Camp-Meeting gerade,
I showed you that there are two final warnings given here.
ich
Right?
habe gezeigt, dass es 2 finale Warnungen, die hier gegeben
The
sind.
last message of warning to Jerusalem,
Der letzte Warnungsbotschaft zu Jerusalem,
but also the last message of warning to Babylon.
aber
Right?
auch der letzte Warnungsbotschaft zu Babylon.
And here it also says it will sink like a stone in the water. Right?
Hier sagt es auch, dass es wie ein Stein im Wasser sinken wird.
Okay, when you go now to Exodus chapter 14,
Wenn wir zu 2. Buch Mose 14 gehen,
actually it's 15.
2. Mose 15,
This is just after Pharaoh was drowned in the Red Sea.
gerade nachdem Pharao im Roten Meer umkam.
And then they sing the song of Moses here.
Hier singen sie das Lied Mose.
And let's jump down to verse 4.
Und fangen wir in Vers 4 an.
It says, Pharaoh's chariots and his host hath he cast into the sea. Where did they were cast into?
So, wo waren sie geworfen?
Into the sea.
Into the sea.
Ins Meer.
His chosen captains also are drowned in the Red Sea. The depth have covered them. They sank into the bottom as a stone. So,
The millstone.
like a stone. Yes.
Sie
Okay.
sind wie ein Stein versunken.
Just like this millstone or in Jeremiah 51, the stone that was bound to the book. Right?
Genauso wie diese Mühlensteine oder in Jeremia 51 dieser Stein, der zum Buch gebunden wurde.
So you can see Pharaoh is like the king of Babylon being punished. Right?
Also können wir sehen, dass Pharao ist wie der König von Babylon, der bestraft wird.
So it gets cast into the sea.
Es ist ins Meer geworfen.
And the sea is the nations, right?
Und das Meer ist eben die Nation.
It's the south that will swallow him up.
Es ist die Südmächten, die ihn verschlingen werden.
Okay, so when we go back now to our notes,
So, wenn wir jetzt zu den Notizen zurückgehen,
so we can see that Babylon is this burnt mountain that is cast into the sea,
wir können sehen, dass Babylon diese verbrannte Berge ist, der ins Meer geworfen
and it
ist.
shall not rise anymore.
Und es
Right?
wird nicht wieder raufkommen.
Meaning that this now speaks about this executive judgment on Babylon.
Und das bedeutet, dass es die Ausführung des Gerichtes ist auf Babylon.
And here
Und gerade hier,
we understand this is only a type for here, right?
hier wir verstehen, dass das nur ein Typus ist für dort.
Okay, so here Babylon is not really finished for all eternity, it's just typifying this final punishment.
Also hier, Babylon ist nicht für alle Ewigkeit am Ende, sondern es schattet nur diese Bestrafung hier voraus.
And even here, I mean, they still have this, right? Then they get fully punished here. Okay.
Selbst da, dann gibt es immer noch die 7 letzten Plagen und am Ende werden sie bestraft.
Okay, good. But let's go back to Revelation 8.
So, gehen wir zur Offenbarung 8 zurück.
So we can see in verse 8 this great burning mountain,
So in Vers 8 gibt es diese große brennende Berg,
but now in verse 9
aber jetzt in Vers 9
it says, And the third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died, and the third part of the ships were destroyed. So here we can see these creatures in the sea, they die, and the ships get destroyed.
Wir
Right?
sehen diese Kreaturen ins Meer sterben und diese Schiffe werden zerstört.
So how was this fulfilled historically?
In der Geschichte, wie würde das erfüllt oder wie ist das erfüllt worden?
I mean, Ezekiel 27, talking about these ships that's in allegiance with her.
Ezekiel 27 spricht über diese Schiffe, die in Allianz mit sie ist.
Okay, yes, but historically first. Who fulfilled this trumpet historically? Yes,
Okay, so.
Genseric,
Es war
right?
Genseric, der dies in der Geschichte erfüllte.
The Vandals.
Die
Yes.
Vandalen.
So let's go to this next quote here.
So, gehen wir zu diesem Zitat hier unten.
It's also by Uriah Smith,
Das ist von Uriah Smith.
and he explains a little bit about this historical fulfillment.
Und er erklärt etwa über diese historische Erfüllung.
So let's begin.
Lass uns
We
anfangen.
don't have to read all of it.
Also wir lesen zwar nicht alle.
It says, the history illustrative of the sounding of the second trumpet evidently relates to the invasion and conquest of Africa and afterward of Italy by the terrible Genseric. His conquests were for the most part naval. So how were his conquests?
So, wie war seine
Yeah, by ships.
Kämpfe? Die waren am meisten durch Schiffe.
So next, bold-faced.
Nächste fettgedruckte Teil.
In explaining this trumpet, we are to look for some events which will have a particular bearing on the commercial world. What world?
So, auf welchen Welt?
Commercial world.
Welt des Kommerz.
And what is the different word for commerce?
Was ist ein anderes Wort für Kommerz?
Merchandise or trade.
So,
Business.
Handelsbetreibung,
Yeah.
Geschäfte.
Okay. Let's continue.
Lesen wir weiter.
The symbol used naturally leads us to look for agitation and commotion. Nothing but a fierce maritime warfare would fulfill the prediction. Okay, so back then there was a great naval battle. Okay,
Damals gab es ein großes Seeschlacht.
next bold-faced.
Nächstes fettgedruckte.
From the port of Carthage, he repeatedly made piratical
Pirates.
yes, sallies,
Yes.
and preyed on the Roman commerce and waged war with that empire. Okay, again it was against the Roman commerce. Right?
Wieder, es war gegen den römische Handelsschiffe.
So when you go now to the next Bible verse, Psalms 107:23,
Gehen wir zum nächsten Bibelvers, Psalm 107, Vers 23.
it says, "They that go down to the sea in ships, that do business in great waters." Yeah, so we understand this ships an illustration of
Wir verstehen, dass das Schiffe eben eine Darstellung
yeah, trade, business,
von
traffic.
Kommerz und ja, Handelsbetreibung und Geschäfte.
And Brother Mark mentioned these 10 ships that are in league with Tyre, right?
Und Mark hat eben diese
Or,
10
yes.
Schiffe, die in Übereinstimmung mit
Or-
Tyrus sind.
Or rather 10 groups of merchants, yes.
Also 10 Gruppen von Handelsleuten.
Okay, and the ships of Tarshish were the main group. Okay.
Die Schiffe von Tarsus waren die Hauptgruppe.
So therefore we can see
So, dadurch können wir sehen,
it illustrates then when now here the second trumpet will blow,
es steht da, wenn hier die zweite Posaune sich schallen lässt
and the third part of the ships are destroyed.
und der dritte Teil die Schiffe zerstört werden.
Ships of whom?
So, wessen Schiffe? Satans Kingdom.
Yes, okay, but who would be Satan's kingdom here?
Satans Königreich. Und wer ist das hier?
The north, right?
Im Norden.
So the third part of the third part is Babylon, right?
Das dritte Teil. Das dritte Teil ist Babylon.
So therefore the ships of the north get destroyed here.
So, deswegen die Schiffe des Nordens werden hier zerstört.
Meaning,
Und das bedeutet Financial Collapse.
yes, the finance system of the north will be destroyed. Okay,
Das Finanzsystem des Nordens bricht zusammen
by the south. Okay,
durch den Süden.
so and this is what we can see in Revelation 18. Yes,
Das ist, was wir auch in Offenbarung 18 sehen
so
können.
let's go to Revelation 18.
Dann gehen wir in unseren Bibeln dahin.
Let's begin in verse 8,
Und wir fangen Vers 8 an.
and we want to read down to verse 12.
Und wir lesen bis Vers 12 hinauf.
It says, "Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire. For strong is the Lord God who judgeth her. So who's burning her with fire again?
So wer verbrennt sie mit Feuer hier?
Alaric and Genseric, right?
Alaric und Genseric.
Okay. And the kings of the earth who have committed and lived deliciously with her, committed fornication, lived deliciously with her. Which kings did fornication with her?
So, welche Könige haben Ehebruch mit sie
Oh.
begangen?
Yes, all kings, but specifically the northern ones,
Alle
right?
Könige, aber spezifisch den Norden.
Okay. Because it says, they shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning, standing afar off for the fear of the torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city, Babylon, that mighty city. For in 1 hour is thy judgment come, and the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise anymore. The merchandise of gold and silver and so on and so forth. Okay?
So dieser Handel von Gold und Silber und so weiter.
So all the merchants now are weeping and lamenting.
So all diese Handelsleute, die heulen und klagen.
Why?
Warum? Es ist Bonn.
Because all this commerce of the north is now being laid low, right?
Den Kommerz des Nordens ist, ja, es fällt.
Oder niedergebracht.
Es wird niedergebracht.
So it says then also in verse 16 and 18,
Die Verse
16 to 18.
16 bis 18.
And saying, Alas, alas, that great city that was clothed in fine linen and purple and scarlet and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls. For in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught. And every shipmaster and all the company in ships and sailors and as many as trade by sea stood afar off and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, What city is like unto this great city? So here we can also see those that trade by ships, right?
Hier können wir sehen, auch diejenigen, die Handel durch Schiffe betreiben.
Okay, so this northern economic system will collapse.
Diese, der Wirtschaftssystem des Nordens wird fallen.
So what can we therefore expect with Russia?
So, was können wir denn mit Russland erwarten?
The whole financial
Yeah.
system's going to come.
Yes, so Russia's economy will collapse, okay?
Dass der russische what's economy again?
Wirtschaft.
Die russische Wirtschaft fallen wird.
Okay. Good. Now let's go back to our notes.
So, gehen wir zu den Notizen zurück.
And I just copied here from the 1828 Webster's Dictionary.
Ich habe hier nur kopiert von den Websters 1828 Wörterbuch
About the word vandalic or vandalism. Okay.
über das Wort, also Vandal oder Vandalismus.
Okay, so vandalic says
Vandalisch sagt,
pertaining to the Vandals, designating the south shore of the Baltic where once lived the Vandals, a nation of
ferocious.
ferocious barbarians, hence ferocious, rude, barbarous. Okay, and vandalism says ferocious cruelty, indiscriminate destruction of lives and property. So therefore, because the Vandals were such ferocious barbarians,
Also weil die Vandalen so fierce, was fierce?
ja, solche, ja,
Fürchterliche Barbaren war.
therefore they basically coined this term vandalism. Okay.
Sie haben letztendlich diese heutigen Ausdrucksweise Vandalismus begründet.
Okay. And we know, yeah, from historical accounts, I forgot to put it in, but they burned the cities and they pulled down statues.
Wir wissen von der Geschichte, und ich habe vergessen, das hier reinzutun, dass die Städte verbrannt haben und dass sie Denkmale runtergerissen haben.
Just like Antifa and Black Lives Matter did just 2 years ago.
Genauso
Okay.
wie Antifa und Black Lives Matter nur vor 2 Jahren dasselbe gemacht haben.
Okay. So this was vandalism that we could see there. Yes.
Das ist Vandalismus, was wir dort sehen können.
Okay. Now, but we also could see that the third part of the creatures in the sea died. Yes.
Aber wir konnten auch sehen, dass ein dritter Teil der Kreaturen ins Meer starben.
So let's go to Ezekiel 47.
Dann gehen wir zu Hesekiel 47.
Let's see what these creatures in the sea represent.
Mal sehen, was diese Kreaturen ins Meer darstellen.
Beginning in verse 8.
Dann fangen wir in Vers 8 an.
It says, Then said he unto me, These waters issue out toward the east country, and go down into the desert, and into the sea, which being brought forth into the sea, the waters shall be healed. So this is this illustration where the water comes out of the temple,
So, das
and
ist
it's
diese
this living water. Okay?
Darstellung, wo diesen Wasser aus dem Tempel herauskommt, diese lebendigen Wasser.
In verse 9.
Vers 9.
And it shall come to pass that everything that liveth, which moveth, whithersoever the rivers shall come, shall live. And there shall be a very great multitude of fish, because these waters shall come thither. For they shall be healed, and everything shall live, whither the river cometh. And it shall come to pass that the fishers shall stand upon it from Engedi even unto Eniglaim. They shall be a place to spread forth nets. Their fish shall be according to their kinds, as the fish of the great sea, exceeding many. So these things that live in the sea or in the water are these fish.
Dinge, die ins Meer oder ins Wasser leben, sind diese Fische.
And what are fishes an illustration for?
Und was stellen Fische eine Darstellung
The
von?
people, Christ said,
Yes,
cast their nets over us, they shall be fishers of men.
exactly.
So stellt Menschen dar. Christus sagt, wenn ihr die Netzen einwerft, dann werdet ihr Menschenfischer werden.
So it's just another illustration that the people, the inhabitants of Babylon will be punished.
Das ist
Okay.
noch eine weitere Darstellung, dass wir sehen können, dass die Einwohner Babylons bestraft werden.
Okay. And because when you go to Revelation 19,
Und wenn wir zu Offenbarung 19 gehen,
which also speaks about this executive judgment on Babylon,
spricht auch über die Ausführung des Gerichtes gegen Babylon,
when Christ comes at the end,
wenn Christus am Ende kommt.
and when you turn to 21,
Wenn wir zu Vers 21 gehen,
it says, And the remnant was slain with the sword of him that sat upon the horse, which sword proceeded out of his mouth, and all the fowls were filled with their flesh. So how many people will be slain
so wie
when he
viele
comes?
Menschen werden geschlachtet werden, wenn er kommt?
All, right?
Allen.
So therefore, the third part of the creatures that had life in the sea died, right?
Deswegen der dritte Teil der Kreaturen, die Leben ins Meer hatten, starben.
Okay. So obviously in Russia, not every single person will now die, okay?
Natürlich in Russland wird nicht jeder einzelne Mensch sterben,
Because it's just a type, but there will be many people dying,
weil es
pointing forward to this final destruction. Okay.
ein Typus ist, aber es wird vielen umkommen, die vorweisen auf diesen letzten Zerstörung hin.
Okay. Everybody follow so far?
Kann jeder soweit folgen?
Now let's go to the third trumpet.
Gehen wir zum dritten Posaun.
Revelation 8, verse 10.
Offenbarung 8, Vers 10.
And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp. And it fell upon the third part of the rivers and upon the fountains of waters. And the name of the star is called Wormwood. And the third part of the waters became wormwood. And many men died of the waters because they were made bitter. So, what can you see here again?
So, was können wir hier wieder sehen?
That part.
Okay, the third part, yes.
Ein dritter Teil.
And what else?
Star falling from heaven.
Again, this burning, right?
Wieder dieses Brennen,
Okay, it's this burning star falling from heaven.
dieser
Okay,
brennende Stern, der vom Himmel fällt.
that's called wormwood.
Und es ist also Bitterkeit genannt.
Okay, so Isaiah 14, verse 12,
So, Jesaja 14, Vers 12.
it says, How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? So a star in Bible prophecy can represent
Stern.
an angel,
In der
right?
biblischen Prophetie kann ein Engel
But
darstellen.
this is Ezekiel 1. It says that the angels are like burning lamps.
Yes,
Es ist in Hesekiel 1, es sagt, die Engel sind wie brennende Lampen.
exactly. So let's go there. Okay.
Dann gehen wir in unseren Bibeln dahin,
Let's go to Ezekiel 1.
Hesekiel 1.
Because it's talking about this fire and brimstone, these burning balls of fire.
Mhm.
Er spricht über diese Feuer und Schwefel, diese brennende Feuerbällen.
So let's go to verse 13.
Vers 13.
Speaking about here the cherubims, the righteous angels.
Er spricht es über die Cherubim, also die gerechte Engel.
But Satan was also one time a cherub, right?
Satan war auch einst ein Cherub.
So verse 13 says,
Vers 13 sagt,
as for the likeness of the living creatures, their appearance was like burning coals of fire. So how did they look like?
so, wie sahen sie aus?
Burning coals.
Brennende
Okay.
Kohlen.
And like the appearance of lamps. Okay, so what came down here in the third trumpet?
So, was kam hier in der dritten Posaune herab?
Yes. Star
Ein Stern,
burning as it were a lamp.
so brennt wie als wäre es eine Lampe.
Okay, so it's an illustration of Satan falling down from heaven and he makes the waters bitter.
So eine
Okay.
Darstellung von Satan, wie er vom Himmel fällt und er macht
I mean, it's also Revelation 9 and 1 because
die Wasser bitter.
Revelation 9:1 is it's like you know when you see Revelation 19 is also the first seal, right? It's the end and the beginning.
Also Offenbarung 19, das ist auch wie der erste Siegel, also es ist eben der Anfang und das Ende.
Okay, he's understanding. You know, to explain it. In Revelation 19, Christ comes on the white horse.
So,
It's
in
the
Yeah, at the end,
executive
yeah.
judgment,
Offenbarung 19, Christus kommt auf dem weißen Pferd,
which is the first seal,
was der erste Siegel ist,
which is at the beginning.
was am Anfang ist.
Yes.
But in this is Mark in how do I explain this? The what's happening here is also the third woe,
Was hier geschieht, ist auch der dritte Wehe,
which is Mark in the end, but it's also the first woe,
was das Ende
or the
markiert,
first trumpet.
aber das ist auch der erste Posaune,
Sorry, not the first, the fifth trumpet.
Yes.
fünfte Posaune ist.
So the point I'm making is it's that same star.
Der Punkt, den ich mache, ist es eben
No,
derselbe
you've not
Stern.
got
We'll come to the, I think then it will be more apparent. Yes.
Aber wir werden noch später dazu kommen.
So when we look at chapter 9, we will explain these points.
So, wenn wir zu Kapitel 9 kommen, dann werden wir diesen Punkten erklären.
Okay, so for now we can see that the third trumpet is marking here now the star falling from heaven.
So,
But
was wir hier sehen können, ist, dass diese dritte Posaune markiert dieser Stern, der vom Himmel fällt.
yes, again with burning, burns up where it falls down to. Okay,
Es ist wieder mit Brennen, es verzehrt das, worauf es fällt.
and it's again the third part. Okay.
Es ist wieder der dritte Teil.
Okay, so and it made the waters bitter.
Und
Okay,
es hat den Wassern bitter gemacht.
because it was wormwood.
Weil es ist eben Bitterkeit genannt.
Okay, Wermut.
Wermut, was Bitterkeit ist. Also
We all,
Wermut
we all
heißt
know this tea by now, right?
also wir wissen das, diese Tee.
So let's go to Numbers 5, verse 18.
So gehen wir zu 4. Buch Mose 5 und Vers 18.
Speaking about these bitter waters.
Er spricht über diese bittere Wasser.
It says, and the priest shall set the woman before the Lord, and uncover the woman's head, and put the offering of memorial in her hands, which is the jealousy offering. And the priest shall have in his hand the bitter water that causes the curse. So this was this test, right? When a man was jealous of his wife,
Das war diesen Test, wenn ein Mann eifersüchtig auf seine Frau war
and he thought she committed adultery,
und er dachte, dass sie Ehebruch begangen hat,
then he was to bring her before the priest,
dann sollte er den Priester vorstellen
and then she was to drink this bitter water.
und
Okay.
sie sollte diesen bitteren Wasser trinken.
Which is the cup.
Yes, and it's the curse, it says, right?
Es sagt hier, dass es den Fluch ist.
So if she was guilty,
Und wenn sie schuldig war,
she was never more to bring forth children.
dann
Okay.
sollte sie nie wieder Kinder wären.
But if she was innocent, then nothing would happen to her.
Aber wenn sie unschuldig wäre, dann wäre eben nichts geschehen.
So, therefore, but the point I want to make is that when the waters are turned bitter, it's an illustration of the curse.
Aber
Okay.
der Punkt, den ich hier machen möchte, ist, dass wenn die Wasser bitter gemacht werden, ist es eine Darstellung des Fluchs.
So, the wormwood, the star called wormwood, comes down and makes the waters bitter,
Also
brings the
dieser
curse.
Stern, der Wermut genannt ist, es kommt herab und es macht den Wassern bitter.
Yeah, so it's the curse coming from Babylon.
Das ist der Fluch, der von Babylon kommt.
So, and who brings this curse?
Und wer bringt diesen Fluch?
Satan, right?
Satan.
Okay, but in the person of
It's
the south, right?
Aber durch den Mittel des Südens.
Okay, because who was the third trumpet historically?
Wer war der dritte Posaune historisch?
that was a killer, right?
Yes, Attila the Huns. Okay.
Attila, der Han,
Hunne.
Hunne.
Okay, let's go therefore to this next quote by Uriah Smith,
So, gehen wir zu diesem nächsten Zitat von Uriah Smith wieder.
and we will not read everything, just the bold-faced.
Wir lesen nur den fettgedruckten Teil.
It says, "It is here premised that this trumpet has allusion to the desolating wars and furious invasions of Attila against the Roman power, which he carried on at the head of his hordes of Huns." So it's again against Rome, right?
So, wieder, es war gegen Rom.
The third part.
So, der dritte Teil.
So, and next bold-faced.
Nächste fettgedruckte Teil.
He regarded himself also as devoted to Mars, the god of war, and was accustomed to array himself in a peculiarly brilliant manner, so that his appearance in the language of his flatterers was such as to dazzle the eyes of beholders. Okay, and then also next bold-faced.
Der nächste fettgedruckte.
It says, "In the name of the star is called wormwood, denoting the bitter consequences." Okay, so and it fell upon the fountains of waters,
Es
right,
fiel über den Wasserquellen
in all the rivers.
und alle Flüssen.
So I don't fully know what the fountains of waters represent now.
So, ich weiß nicht genau, was die Wasserquellen hier
Do you have an
darstellen.
idea?
Well, I mean, Ezekiel says it in, does he not say in Ezekiel 29 that the rivers are mine own? And so,
Yes. I mean, it's again definitely waters illustrating.
because it says
people
the river
that-
was dried up in the sixth
Plague. Yeah.
plague, which is also the sixth plague.
Mm.
So it's to do with the people, I mean, because in fact, as Isaiah 27 will maybe be more, Isaiah 27 maybe give a clear understanding of it.
We don't understand that once the people no longer support the king.
Yes, when they dried up.
Yes, but we want to just identify these rivers, but Isaiah 27,
I mean, rivers is clear, but the fountains of waters.
not Isaiah 27,
Die
it's
Flüsse sind klar, es sind
Isaiah
eben
17, excuse me,
die
not
Wasserquellen. Also Jesaja 17 gehen wir.
Verse 13.
Verse 12 and 13 is
12 von 13.
says, "Woe to the multitude of many people which make a noise like the noise of the seas, and to the rushing of nations that make rushing like the rushing of mighty waters. The nations shall rush like the rushing of many waters, but God shall rebuke them. And they shall flee far off, and shall be chased as the chaff of the mountains before them." So, Pharaoh says the same thing as the rivers I made for myself. He's speaking about his nation.
Also
Right?
Pharao sagt von sich, also diese Flüsse, die macht er für mich. Und er spricht über seine Nation.
I mean, the rivers are people, but the fountains of water, I mean, they probably also illustrate the people, but maybe there's some more distinction that we have to understand. I don't know it at the moment, I didn't look it
Die
up.
Flüsse stellen Menschen dar, aber die Wasserquellen, also vielleicht bedeutet es dasselbe. Ich weiß eben jetzt im Moment nicht.
And did you not read in Ezekiel 47? That it's like a fountain at the beginning or something, right?
Ezekiel 47 hatten wir was darüber
Ezekiel
gelesen.
47.
Okay.
Oh, no,
Speaks about rivers.
yeah, this is-
Okay, it doesn't matter. We can look it up and then try to find it out what the rivers, the fountains of water represent. Okay, but we again see it's definitely this curse comes upon the inhabitants of Babylon, right?
Wir können auf jeden Fall sehen, ist, dass diese Fluch ist über den Einwohnern von Babylons. River, see fountains of your heart will be as a fountain of water. Was that? No, rivers of water will come from your belly, right? Again.
Anyways, so let's go now to the fourth trumpet.
So gehen wir jetzt zum 4. Posaune.
Revelation 8, verse 12.
Offenbarung 8 und Vers 12.
And at the end, I will ask you a question and you can maybe answer me, okay?
Am Ende werde ich eine Frage stellen und ihr konntet mich vielleicht antworten,
Once we gone through the trumpets, okay?
nachdem
The
wir
first four.
hier die ersten 4 Posaunen durchgegangen sind.
So Revelation 8, verse 12.
Offenbarung 8, Vers 12,
It's an easy one.
ein einfaches.
It says, And the fourth angel sounded, and the third part of the sun was smitten, and the third part of the moon, and the third part of the stars. So as the third part of them was darkened, and the day shone not, for a third part of it, and the night likewise. Alright, so what is smitten here?
So, was wird hier erschlagen?
Sun, moon, and stars, right?
Sonne, Mond und Stern.
Illustrates the government of Rome. Yes?
Das stellt die Regierung Roms dar.
Okay, when you go to Genesis chapter 1,
Und wenn wir zu 1. Buch Mose Kapitel 1 gehen,
let's read verse 16 to 7, down to 18.
und wir lesen die Versen 16 bis 18,
Actually, verse 16 is enough already.
sogar Vers 16 genug.
It says, And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. So what is the sun and the moon to do?
So, was sollte denn Sonne und Mond tun?
That's to rule.
Die
Right?
sollten regieren.
So it illustrates government or rulership.
Das stellt Regierung oder Regentschaft dar.
And when you go to Genesis 37,
Wenn wir zu 1. Buch Mose 37 gehen,
let's begin with verse 9,
dann fangen wir in Vers 9 an.
9 and 10.
9 und 10.
It says, it's about Joseph dreaming this dream.
Spricht über Josef, der diesen Traum träumt.
And he dreamed yet another dream, and it told it his brethren, and said, Behold, I have dreamed a dream more. And behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me. And he told it to his father and to his brethren. And his father rebuked him and said unto him, What is this dream that thou hast dreamed? Shall I and thy mother and thy brethren indeed come to bow down ourselves to thee, to the earth? So, sun, moon, and stars illustrated the father, the mother, and the children, right?
So, Sonne, Mond und Stern stellen den Vater, den Mutter und den Kindern dar.
Yeah, so you have this hierarchy, right?
Es gibt diese
Hierarchy.
Hierarchie.
So the father is the greatest light, the sun, then the mother, the moon, and the brethren were the stars.
Der Vater war diesen großen Licht der Sonne, die Frau war den Mond und den Kindern den Stern.
Okay, and that's why the pioneers, they also came to this understanding when we go to this quote.
Deswegen
In the
sind
notes.
die Pioniere zu denselben Kenntnis gekommen, wenn wir zu diesem Zitat in den Notizen gehen.
It's enough to read the boldfaced.
Wir lesen nur den fettgedruckten Teil.
It says, We understand that this trumpet symbolized the career of Odoacer, the barbarian monarch who was so intimately connected with the downfall of Western Rome, the symbols sun, moon, and stars, for they are undoubtedly here used as symbols, evidently denote the great luminaries of the Roman government, its emperors, senators, and consuls. Okay, so the emperor was the highest, was the sun.
So der Imperator war der höchste Rang, er war der Sonne.
Then the senators were the moon,
Senatoren waren die Mond.
and the consuls were then the stars.
Konsulaten waren die Sterne.
Gog would be the
Yeah, Gog is the sun. Yes, exactly.
Gog ist die Sonne.
Okay, and when you go to Haggai,
Und wenn wir zu Haggai gehen,
just go up,
so ist es gerade darüber,
chapter 2,
Kapitel 2,
verses 21 and 22.
Verse 21, 22.
It says, "Speak to Zerubbabel, governor of Judah, saying, I will shake the heavens and the earth." So what is being shaken?
So was wird erschüttert?
Heavens and the earth.
Himmel
Okay.
und Erde.
And what does this word say? What are the powers in heaven?
Was sagt Ellen White? Was sind die Kräfte im Himmel?
Yeah, sun, moon, and stars. Okay.
Sonne, Mond und Sterne.
So when sun, moon, and stars get shaken,
So wenn die Sonne, Mond und Sterne erschüttert
what will
werden,
happen?
was wird geschehen?
Verse 22.
Vers 22.
"And I will overthrow the throne of
kingdom.
kingdoms, and I will destroy the strength of the kingdoms of the heathen, and I will overthrow the chariots and those that ride in them, and the horses and their riders shall come down, every one by the sword of his brother." Okay? So therefore the Lord says there will be a civil war, right?
Deswegen sagt der Herr, es wird einen Bürgerkrieg geben.
And this is how we will overthrow these kingdoms.
Und
Okay?
so werden wir diese Königreiche zum Fall bringen.
Not we, see.
So werden sie diese Königreiche zum Fall bringen.
Okay, so therefore we can see when heaven and earth get shaken, the governments will be overthrown.
So,
Okay,
deswegen können wir sehen, wenn die Himmel und Erde erschüttert werden, die Regierungen werden fallen.
and therefore in this illustration, it's the third part, the government of the third part, right?
Diese Darstellung ist der dritte Teil, die Regierung des dritten Teils.
So it's Babylon being overthrown
Das ist Babylon, der umgestürzt wird
by the civil war that will come up.
durch
Okay.
diesen Bürgerkrieg, die aufkommen
The
wird.
barbarians, they will come and burn them up.
Die Barbaren werden kommen und sie verbrennen.
Yes,
Amen.
everybody sees this. Okay.
Könnt ihr das sehen?
So now comes my question, as I already told you.
Jetzt meine Frage, die ich vorgewarnt habe.
So first 4 trumpets.
Also die erste 4 Posaunen,
What could you see?
was konntest du sehen?
The first trumpet came on which part? Or yeah, okay,
Third part.
okay.
Die
No
erste
question is
Posaune
that.
kam an den dritten Teil.
The question is, there's four. the
Okay,
parts of
it fell
four-
upon the earth. Okay, that was my.
Fiel auf die Erde.
The second,
Der zweite, Trees and Grass.
second part was with the sea, right?
Der zweite Teil war den Meer.
And the third was
Der dritte,
the rivers and the fountains of waters, right?
die Flüsse und den Brunnen des Wassers,
And
Quellen
the
des Wassers.
fourth was
Government.
sun, moon, and stars, right?
Der vierte war Sonne, Mond und Stern.
Which is the heavens, right?
Das die Himmel sind.
So what can you see there?
It's a
Was
whole.
kannst du da sehen?
Yes, okay, it's true.
Das Gesamte.
Also like in the second,
Well,
It's
okay,
the Lord that owns the, because he says in Exodus, or it says in Revelation 14,
yes.
fear God and give glory to him, for the hour of judgment has come, and worship him that made heaven and earth, and seas and the fountains of waters.
Exactly. That was the point.
Offenbarung 14.
That's what was the point I wanted to hear. Let's go to Revelation 14.
Gehen wir zu Offenbarung 14.
But it's taken from Exodus 20, that's the point.
Exactly. So let's go to Revelation 14,
Offenbarung 14,
verses 6 to 7.
die Versen 6 und 7.
It says, "And I saw another angel fly in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel to preach unto them that dwell on the earth, and to every nation and kindred and tongue and people." So who is this angel preaching here?
So, wer ist dieser Engel, der hier
Flying
predigt?
roll.
Yes, it's God's people, right, giving the last warning message.
Das sind Gottes Volk, die die letzte Warnungsbotschaft geben.
Yes, with a flying roll.
Der fliegende Roll.
Yes. So, and what do they say?
Und was sagen sie?
Saying with a loud voice, "Fear God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come, and worship him that made heaven and earth and sea and the fountains of waters. So the last warning message is, worship Him that made the earth, the heaven, the sea and the fountains of waters.
Die erste Warnungsbotschaft ist, bete den an, der den Himmel, die Erde, den Meer und den Wasserquellen gemacht hat.
And how do you do this?
Und wie tust du das?
Where else do we see this?
Wo sehen wir das noch?
Yeah, Exodus 20, right?
Schöpfung im 2. Buch Mose 20.
So keep your finger here, let's go to Exodus 20.
Halte den Platz hier und geht zu 2. Buch Mose 20.
Verse 8 and verse 11.
Verse 8 und 11.
Verse 8 says, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Verse 11.
Vers 11.
For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them is, and rested the 7th day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. So
That's what I'm saying. This is what proves the fountains of waters, because the fountains of waters, when you go through the Bible, they're always linked to the rivers. And
Yes.
the rivers are all, because it says here,
the sea.
heaven, earth, sea, and all that is in them. That's the people.
Mhm.
That's the fountains of waters.
Yes.
The fountains of waters get dried up. That's the people get dried up. You know, like
Okay. Yes. But the point is, so you worship this God by worshipping
Also du betest Gott an, indem dass du
we're worshipping on the Sabbath, right?
dass du am Sabbat anbetest.
So in the Sunday law, the last warning message will be,
Im Sonntagsgesetz, der letzte Warnungsbotschaft wäre,
come out of Egypt, we keep the Sabbath.
keep the Sabbath, right?
halte den Sabbat.
So fear Him that made heaven and earth, the sea and the fountains of waters, right?
Fürchte den, der Himmel und Erde, den Meer und den Wasserquellen gemacht hat.
And if you don't do it,
Und wenn du das nicht
in
tust,
this time where still probation's open,
in dieser Zeit, wo die Gnadentür noch offen ist,
then He will bring judgment on all the things that He created, right?
dann wird er Gericht über alles, was er erschaffen hat, bringen.
And He will judgment on the earth,
Auf die Erde,
the sea,
das Meer,
the fountains of water,
den Wasserquellen
and the heavens.
und
Okay.
den Himmel.
Yeah, the point is that this is rest. And Sister White says the calling out of Babylon, so that they don't receive the mark of the beast, was also the calling out of Egypt so they could keep his Sabbath.
Yes.
So when they came out, they entered into his rest, and that's Hebrews 4.
Also wenn sie sowohl aus Babylon herauskamen als aus Ägypten, es war, um seine Ruhe zu halten. Und das ist den Sabbat zu halten.
Okay, good. Last verse,
Im letzten Vers,
Revelation 8, verse 13,
das ist Offenbarung 8 und Vers 13.
says, And I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, 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 to the inhabitants of the earth, by reason of the other voices of the trumpets of the 3 angels, which are yet to sound. So, therefore, what is now announced?
So, was ist jetzt hier verkündet?
That now 3 woes will still follow, right?
Dass jetzt 3 Wehen werden folgen.
And it's a clear distinction from the first 4 and now the last 3 are announced. Okay.
Es ist ein Unterschied gemacht zwischen die ersten 4 und hier die letzten 3 werden verkündet.
Yes? Everybody sees this?
Kann jeder das sehen?
So in the first 4 was the work of the south on the north.
Die
Okay.
ersten 4 war das Werk des Südens auf dem Norden.
And tomorrow, by God's grace, we want to look now at these last 3 trumpets. Okay?
So, Gott möchte, morgen werden wir diese letzten 3 Posaunen anschauen.
Amen?
Amen.
Okay. Good. And I hope that everybody could follow
Ich hoffe, dass jeder folgen kann,
and that we can see also what will come upon Putin. Okay?
dass wir sehen können, was über Putin kommen wird.
That his kingdom will be burnt up very soon.
Dass sein Königreich sehr bald verbrannt wird.
Especially by the southern people rising up. Okay,
Insbesondere durch den Süden Völker, die aufstehen werden.
okay, good. Civil war.
Ein
Okay.
Bürgerkrieg eben.
Economy will collapse.
So, die Wirtschaft wird fallen.
the government will be overthrown,
die Regierung wird umgestürzt
and many people, unfortunately, will perish.
und viele Menschen leider werden vergehen.
Okay. Then let's close with our prayer.
Dann lasst uns mit unserer Gebetsrunde Schluss machen.